What's up, y'all? You're watching Union Minded. I'm your host, Eric, and today we are going to talk about victory. Victory, solidarity, and victory. How sweet it is and how sweet it must feel for these workers. But first, before we get into the story, don't forget to hit the like button, the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, drop some comments, and share these videos far and wide. Now, what am I talking about when I'm screaming here, congratulations on your victory? I don't know if you've heard, but the museum workers at the Philadelphia Museum of Art went on strike 3 weeks ago for a new contract. They hadn't had anything negotiated in 3 years, and they won a new contract after 3 weeks of strikes. The Philadelphia Museum of Art Workers Union tweeted out a few tweets the other day, and I want to read them to you so you guys can share in their own elation, because it's amazing how solidarity can really get you some a better quality of life. It's outrageous. But here we go. So they tweeted out, "We have a contract tonight. Members of PMA union voted 99% in favor of ratifying our hard-won first contract at the Philadelphia Museum of Art. Hard-won first contract. 3 weeks of holding back their power, holding back their labor, holding back their value from a company was enough to show the company that they cannot operate without these folks. And they do, in fact, have value, and it's worth something. Ain't that something?" They continue, "We are proud of our historic strike. We are proud of our strength, our unity, our resolve. We picketed for days in torrential rain. Our footwear stayed wet, our signs soaked through, while management refused to move. We held the line. We were not broken. You lifted us up. You joined us. You fed us. You kept us warm. You shamed the museum every single day. You saw us. Thank you to everyone in this beautiful city who saw us. The labor movement that welcomed us and championed us and fought with us." Woo! Get you in the fields, don't it? Man, get you in the fields. They say, "We went on strike to win 5 things. We won them. Higher raises. 6 raises over 3 years, totaling 14%. First raise retroactive to July 1st. Third, higher minimums, $15 minimum to $16.75 hourly, upper 30s to $42,000 salary. Longevity pay to recognize length of service to the museum. And cheaper health care. Costs of the plan most of us are on is reduced by over 50%. These are all very good things for the workers at the Philadelphia Museum of Art. And again, I say congratulations to you. Other wins in our contract: 4 weeks of paid parental leave, up from 0. More bereavement leave. A pay equity committee. Limits on temps and subcontractors, and more. How does it feel? Several of us are quoted in this article, and I'm going to give you the article. But one thing just stood out to me a little bit. These guys won their first contract, and you see that they got 4 weeks of paid parental leave in that contract. Wouldn't that be something? If you get it in your contract, paid parental leave. We're sitting here waiting on the government to pass laws while corporations are buying the government. We're going to have to do it ourselves. So maybe, just maybe, through solidarity, we could demand some of these benefits that politicians can't seem to legislate. At least it can be part of the long game strategy, I think. But yeah, that's amazing. They're getting 4 weeks of paid parental leave, up from 0. So I'm going to go ahead and link to the article, and let's see what the article has to say. This is in the Inquirer, not to be confused with the Enquirer. So, news section. Art museum staffers ratify first contract and look forward to returning to work. Pressure from public officials, a looming exhibit, and the dogged persistence of union members all played a role in ending work stoppage, say participants. This is by Stephen Salisbury. It's updated on October 17th, 2022. So I'm going to go ahead and give you the article right quick. striking members of the first union in the storied history of the Philadelphia Museum of Art overwhelmingly approved their first contract Sunday, and prepared to return to their jobs Monday morning, concluding a historic 19-day walkout. 19 days of holding back their labor got them their first ever contract. 19 days. Solidarity, man. Someone's quoted here, "I love my job and I'm really happy to go back to work," said Maya Wind, a graphics editor who has worked at the museum for 33 years and walked the picket line for all 19 days since September 26th. "We were able to hold out for the contract that we deserve," she said. "We actually deserve a lot more, but we won the strike. We definitely won the strike. So we're going to go back and we're going to be very strong." The PMA union, an affiliate of Ask Me DC 47, has been negotiating a deal with the museum management for 2 years. In the end, the museum agreed to virtually all that the union wanted, approving a 14% pay hike over 3 years, retroactive to July of this year, an increase in the minimum hourly wage from $15 to $16.75, longevity pay increases that would grant workers an additional $500 for every 5 years of employment, 4 weeks of parental leave paid, and help with the high cost of health insurance. The contract had 99% approval, with more than 120 members in attendance to vote. Fed up with the slow pace of bargaining, leaders of the 180-member unit, here are roughly 350 staff members at the museum, had filed a grievance with the National Labor Relations Board in August and called a one-day warning strike September 16th. Shots fired. William Peterson, museum chief operating officer, called the union action a disappointment and vowed that the museum would remain open, staffed by managers and non-union personnel during any labor stoppage. Oh, how they undervalue the most valuable asset that they have as a company. Your most valuable asset is your workforce. They're the ones that provide all the profit, dum-dums. The union finally called a full-fledged strike September 26. This is the stage where you find out. The previous stage was where you effed around. It was not the first strike to affect the museum. There were walkouts by municipal workers in the 80s and 90s when the city was facing its own fiscal problems. But this was the first institution-wide museum-specific strike in the city's history. Complicating matters was that upper echelons of the museum hierarchy, including chief executive and director Timothy Rubb, had all retired by the beginning of this year. That left Peterson, a veteran of Verizon, who had been hired to serve as museum lawyer, overseeing negotiations and daily museum operations. The day of the walkout, Sasha Suda, former director of the National Gallery of Canada, a unionized organization, arrived to take over as director and CEO. The museum announced that she would not be involved in negotiations, mystifying observers. There's another quote here. "I'm reflecting a lot and trying to really keep a level head about it, but it does feel sweet." That was from Chris Havlish. Leslie Ann Miller, chair of the museum's board of trustees, said that the museum had hoped to have the contract resolved by the time of Suda's arrival. "It didn't happen," Miller said. "Not to look back, but the reality is that we were 2 years into this, a complex negotiation, and we agreed that Sasha could best serve the museum by starting to get her internal bearings and allowing us to finish up what we had started. And although you might not have seen it, she was a very active, thoughtful, and important member of this team, and in a very short time." Part of the reason for sluggish negotiations, said one source, who was not authorized to comment on the negotiations and asked not to be identified, is that museum leadership was under the impression that the employees would not strike, and if they did, they couldn't hold the strike. They banked on your divisions. They banked on the fact that they thought that you didn't have what it took to stand together in solidarity and hold the line for a better contract. They banked on it. Like, they completely underestimated you guys and banked on you to fail. Do not underestimate labor and the power of that all so sweet word, solidarity. In other words, workers would drop out and cross the line. Said the source. They were sorely mistaken. Weren't they, though? Weren't they, though? What ultimately made the difference, according to this source, was that city and state officials became involved. I think it was the intercession of local and state elected officials that jump-started talks, said the source. And people who knew key board leaders well urged them to resolve the issues and get back to business. Several sources said Mayor Jim Kenney, Rich Laser, deputy mayor for Labor, and Attorney General and gubernatorial candidate Josh Shapiro were among those who played a role in moving negotiations along. Looming over all was the museum's impending blockbuster exhibition, Matisse in the 30s, which opens to the public on October 20th. VIP and member previews were scheduled for this past weekend. Museum officials did not relish the prospect of an international exhibit opening surrounded by picket lines, as well-heeled museum goers threaded their way past strikers. On Friday, the museum and the union announced a tentative agreement. On Sunday, the union voted to ratify the contract. On Friday, after the announcement, Suda spoke of healing. This is the beginning of a new chapter, she said. There's going to be a lot of healing that needs to ensue. Joseph Hugh, a photographer for the museum, said that much of the healing will likely be the result of the presence of the union contract itself. I think this becomes a big change in the way that the museum has to look at its staff, he said, with more transparency and respect and thoughtfulness, rather than with just the press release kind of speak, where they talk about diversity and inclusivity, equality, and don't really back it up. Here is a document, the contract, that challenges that and really spells out and formalizes the way that we should be treated. I think it's a major step, not just for our museum, but for other museums and other institutions in the cultural sector. Now think about that. Think about what he just said. Here is the document, the contract, that challenges and really spells out and formalizes the way that we should be treated. That's what your agreement is. It formalizes how your job is supposed to run. That's why it's so critical that we are participants in what is in that contract. We can't just vote willy-nilly and be like, yeah, go ahead, and not include the things that we care about in that contract so that we can have a better experience when we go to work, instead of always feeling irritated and taken advantage of like so many of us feel. Art handler Chris Havlish, a 17-year museum vet, said that the situation was unfortunately becoming very bitter as the strike dragged on, largely because there was persistent reports that the museum was bringing in non-union workers to hang art for the Matisse exhibition. Photographs of these Matisse installers spread across social media platforms. Oh yeah, it feels very sweet to win, Havlish said. I think a lot of reflection is happening. I'm reflecting a lot on trying to really keep a level head about it, but it does feel sweet. The Philadelphia Inquirer, this is about the paper itself. So anywho, there you go. Congratulations to the workers at the Philadelphia Museum of Art. Solidarity wins always, and you guys were a shining example of that. And I hope that the viewers of this video can appreciate your victory and take inspiration from it. Because it's everything. That solidarity is everything. It's how we win. It's the only way we win. Anyway, my name's Eric. You're watching Union Minded. Keep in mind, the fight is not left and right. It's up and down. It's going to take solidarity to win always. Each one teach one. Get out there and reach one. And I got a new one for you. There's no union without you and I front and center. Peace.